Are we ready? Go live. Are we live? Yeah. Go run it. Yeah, Earl. Love you, Earl. You're so amazing. Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
To the Showing Up Show. Showing up. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Dana Be Dana. I am your host, Dana Michelle, and we are back in studio, y'all. We are live on Facebook, which has been acting real crazy today. So shouts out to everybody on Facebook. I hope y'all get it together, work it out. We're going to pray for y'all. Please share the show. We are live on Facebook, and we are at IntellectualRadio.com, an iHeart radio station. I am here with some of my favorite ladies, some of my best looking friends. Mm-hmm. Martin Luther King once said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Welcome to the Show Up Show. And we're going to talk about what showing up means. It's a topic that really resonates with me. In a short time span, for me personally, this was back in 2011, I had my second child. I lost my dad unexpectedly to a heart attack. I was working with a difficult boss, and my marriage was failing. And when it was time for me to divorce, people showed up for me. Alexis is here. You'll meet her in a minute. She's been a regular on the show. So many people showed up for me, and that was incredibly important. So the whole topic of showing up resonates with me. I believe that people aren't showing up for each other like we used to. Back in the day, I used to see people showing up in a very physical, present, engaged way. And so I wanted to do a show about showing up because I think it means so much to show up and be present. Please hit the share button because if you believe in sharing, sharing is showing. Showing is sharing. But hit the share button because I think this really is a topic that is very important, and I want other people to be inspired by this. So I would love to introduce my panel. I'll start with you, Alexis. Can you introduce yourself, say your name and something about you that's amazing?
Well, I was just on here last week. My name is Alexis, and I remain a hot mess mom. Thank you.
Emphasis on hot. Aaron.
Hi, I'm Erin Connor, and I wasn't told this question ahead of time, so I didn't get to prepare for it, but I think I'm awesome because I'm friends with Alexis, so ride her coattails.
And Erin has a fantastic story about showing up, which we'll get to. If you are not seeing this on Facebook Live, we will be sharing the YouTube version, just so you know. I'm trying to follow. It's been a hellified day on Facebook, so I don't know what's going on. But you can see it. It's good. I can't see it either. Facebook has been really wonky, but that's okay.
We don't really have to care how we're acting right now. We could just let's just start dancing.
Go to the website, IntellectualRadio.com. IntellectualRadio.com. You can see us there. That's working. Thanks, Earl. Amazing. Mm-hmm. And we'll share the show if you can't see it on Facebook Live. Tiffany, how are you, beautiful?
Oh, thank you. I am good. I'm Tiffany McQueen Lewis, and I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be friends with such beautiful, amazing people, and just happy to be able to be present and have people that have shown up for me and have tried to show up for others. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. And Sheetal, how are you?
Hi, I'm fabulous.
Awesome. Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Sheetal Parikh. I'm under 5 feet tall, but have beat anybody I've ever known Michael Jordan trivia. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Now you know. Now you know. And on the phone, Michelle, how are you?
I am good. Can you hear me?
Well, yes, we can.
Hi, I am on the phone from New York.
I love it.
I guess that's the fun fact about me.
And I appreciate you being here. Again, you're watching Dana Being Dana on IntellectualRadio.com and sort of Facebook Live. Please share the show. So, ladies, let's talk about what does showing up mean to you? What is showing up? What does it mean to you? Or tell us about a crucial moment in your life when someone has shown up.
Well, I'm just going to say what showing up is. I think it's when someone's going through a really hellacious time and someone kind of comes and just lets you know that you're there for them through, either kind words or a gesture or just being there or a favor, sleeping with you.
Amazing.
Whatever.
Show up for me. And I can say this now, like when I was going through my divorce, you showed up for me. And it's one of the things we hadn't known each other very long, but you came over to help me move. I said I was ready. I was done. I am out of this piece. And you showed up in your minivan.
Yeah, my brand new man.
She's a hot soccer mom.
Yeah. Yes.
And I just remember loading up clothes. And we were nervous. It was a transition. You knew my ex-husband.
She yelled at me for hugging her ex-husband as I was loading up clothes.
Loyalty is important. I'm just saying.
It was kind of awkward. I was just kind of like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
No.
Hit him in the balls.
Totally.
No, it'd be on that note. I was engaged when I moved to Chicago to a gentleman that was a great guy, just we weren't a great fit. And a mutual friend of ours, obviously someone closer to me, my line sister, I was on my way to a conference and, I was on the phone with her and I was obviously feeling very stuck. I was like, I need to get out of this relationship, but I feel stuck and I feel like I need help to get out. And I'm a strong person, but I just really felt paralyzed in the relationship for a lot of reasons. And she literally said, when do you fly back into Chicago? Because I was on my way to Boston. And she met me at the airport. She came to the house with me. And when he saw her, because they went to law school together, and he was kind of like, oh, this is serious. So she packed we packed my stuff up and we were gone. And, literally I was in the bathroom and he came in there. And I think that was his one opportunity to get away from her and to try to have some time with me. And he literally, was like, please don't go. And I was like, no, it's time. It's done. We're done. But I don't think I would have ever left had it not been for her coming to the airport I think she was living in Tucson, Arizona at the time. She flew into Chicago, met me at the airport, drove to the house, packed my stuff up, was gone. She was just like here. She packed up and then she was out like within 2 days. But I needed that. So I would probably still be in that relationship if it wasn't for her.
And I think that's what's so important because sometimes showing up can be helping you in a life-changing event.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people may see that as, oh, she was a hater or whatever. I think it's somebody who is galvanizing you and pushing you into your inevitable.
Absolutely. And she saw it. She felt it in my voice. She was like, you need help to get out of that situation. Good guy, but just not for you.
Right.
And she was like, I got to come and show up because I know if I don't come, you probably won't leave. So thank God for her. And it changed the trajectory of my life.
I think it's so important. And I think having those people to push you, to nudge you, to help you. Sometimes people see things in you that you don't see for yourself, right? And I think that's so important. I mean, my friends, Tiffany, all of you guys are good friends of mine, but Tiffany and Alexis are often telling me things that I may not necessarily want to hear, but, telling me what's good for me, who's not good for me. And it's very important because those are the people who keep you honest. And that's in so many ways what showing up is all about.
And I think it's so much about the follow through, right? It's so easy for people to say, let me know what you need or call me if you need anything. But it's the people that are proactive that show up and are in your face saying, this is what you need or this is how I'm going to help you. It's really easy to be passive aggressive.
Yes. Say that again. It's really easy
to be passive.
Yeah.
Passive aggressive.
Passive aggressive.
And I feel like we live in this world.
Let me know what you need.
Yeah.
But no, show up, get a plane ticket, be at the airport. But
and don't be superficial. We live in this world where it's so easy to just scratch the surface, and it's a world of social media and a world of just buzzwords, but nobody really invests or digs deep. And I think so much of showing up is that investment, taking that next step, investing and being there when it's not convenient. It's inconvenient, but that's why it's so profound.
Really being there.
Yeah.
At an inopportune time on a Wednesday night, or packing boxes or whatever it is, that may not necessarily jive with your schedule. It may not be in your Outlook. There's no meeting invite. It's all good. You got it, girl.
Yeah, and it's Michelle. I'd also say one thing about showing up, and your story resonated because sometimes it's not about showing up because it's the friend you want. It's sometimes the friend you need.
Yes.
And it's not always there for a fun time or the friend that is telling you what you want to hear. Dana got me out of a bad relationship, and she didn't do it nicely. And I'm grateful. No, but she was the friend I needed at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that matters too.
Yeah.
Being brave enough to put it on the line and say, well, hell, I'm not gonna let you do this.
Right.
Michelle and I have very strong personalities, and it's a very special friendship that we share because we met when we were both married and we are both divorced. And so we see each other. And I think Michelle is a beautiful spirit. On a personal level, Michelle showed up for me when I had surgery last month. She was like, when she got wind of my surgery and she knew that I was having surgery for fibroids, we just did a show a couple weeks ago on fibroids. But Michelle was like, I'm going to be there to help you run your household and make sure things continue to go smoothly. And so she flew from New York to Chicago and spent days with me and my family, making sure that my house continued to run the way that it would run as if I was able to run it. And that kind of sisterhood, that kind of showing up is incredibly important. To pick up and fly, from another state to be here. I'm incredibly grateful for you, Michelle, and I just appreciate you. It's the difference that separates some acquaintances that you have, or like shishi foo-foo friends who love the restaurants and the drinks, and it's amazing. But people who are there for you, it wasn't a fun time. It certainly wasn't a sexy time. But I appreciate Michelle showing up. And on a personal level, just keeping us honest as we navigate this new chapter for both of us in terms of navigating new relationships and navigating new people, and realizing, obviously, we don't want to settle for some of the stuff that we've been through, and just looking forward. So she has saved me from some relationships that all of you all have also weighed in on. And I just appreciate it, because that's what showing up in this adult life is all about. I think, and you two have known each other since high school.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And can you talk about how you've shown up for each other over time, and of course most recently?
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, let me say what I'm going through recently, which is super fun. 2 years ago, my husband was diagnosed with a very rare stage 4 cancer. And basically you can't cure it. He's had it for 4 years, but it's taken a toll. When was it? Was it last year? Erin, Erin's been the friend that's just like, she'd leave you messages and just be like, hey, if you just want to talk, I just feel so bad. It just sucks, and swearing at cancer. And I love that. She's like, I don't know what to do, but I'm here for you. You don't need to call me back. Just one of those. She's just been awesome. So we were at our friend's house in Galena, and we go there every 6 months. And she says, what can we do? What can we do? So we decided to do a fundraiser for cancer research for he has a very, very rare cancer. It's like, what was it? Like maybe like 1,000 people a year get this cancer. It's crazy. So we did a fundraiser just for research for his specific cancer last year. And so we decided to do this women's run, and we got all these people involved. Erin was like the ringmaster of everything. She annoyed the crap out of everybody, and just
Shameless.
she was very
I
shameless.
wasn't annoyed.
Yeah.
She was very
I fell in love
shameless.
with you, Erin.
Shameless. So Noonan, say how you were annoying.
Erin, tell no.
She was.
Tell everybody how much money you raised.
Oh yes.
So it's not how much. So I feel very uncomfortable about this, because it's not.
Be
how
very
much
uncomfortable
I
on
raised.
Dana being Dana.
So like,
Because you look
You
sexy.
You did it.
You're
I didn't do
amazing.
it.
Well, I'm going to preface it. So like, I have a lot of skin in this game. Like, I've known Alexis for 25 years. She's been such an amazing friend. I've known Steve just as long. When they first started dating, I got like really 15-year-old mad, like, oh, you're like ditching me for your boyfriend? And now they're like married and have 3 kids.
She goes,
It's really
"Are
embarrassing.
you going out with that guy with the big lips?" I was like, "Yes, I
And
am."
Alexis is like, let me tell you about big lips.
I like his big lips.
So anyway, so there were
Steve, I love your lips. Personally.
yeah, so it was a huge effort, but I was more blown away by the people that had only known you for months or were friends of friends that totally hustled. Like, obviously, I'm going to do something, but we raised collectively with this huge group $100,000. So it was really
Over
rewarding.
$100,000.
And it just felt like we were doing something. And like Alexis is a doctor, and I will like send her
Hot
texts
doctor.
of like pictures of like, do you think I need to go see somebody about this? Like rashes or things going on with my kids. So she's always there for everybody.
She's always there.
She's there no matter what, like through thick or thin. So of course we do that for you.
And I tell you, Alexis, I've said this to you several times. The love that you receive from people is merely a reflection of the love that you give
so
out.
True.
And that's what I believe when it comes to showing up. If you feel like no one's showing up for you, it's a call to action, I think, to start showing up for other people.
Yeah.
Because I believe when you give love, you receive it in return. And that's exactly what it's been for Alexis and Steve. I think this friendship dynamic is amazing. To have high school friends, people you've known all your life, show up for you in such meaningful ways as adults. Tiffany, do you want to talk about a crucial moment in your life and the people that showed up for you?
Yeah, so I lost my parents pretty close together. I lost my father in October of 2018, and my friends showed up in a major way. I remember they were living in Atlanta, and his body had to be flown to Indianapolis, where we're from, and I had to get my mother on a plane to Indianapolis, and so my best friend picked her up. I had to fly with his body essentially and try to meet them in Indianapolis. So she picked my mom up and made sure she was good and made sure I got to the airport. And then when I got to Indianapolis, there were just so many people that showed up. And then a month later, my mom died unexpectedly. And so those same people, from like making CDs for her funeral, helping me write the obituary, to, sending a series of just literally having like a sign-up sheet of food. I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner like around the clock, just showing up at the house. I had like 20 of my friends from college, from childhood, from my current job, my current employers and staff members and teammates drove to Indianapolis for the funeral. And it just meant everything for me. And then it was little things like people that weren't able to come to the funeral, but I had mentioned that I wanted to start a foundation to honor my parents. And so, one of my former colleagues sent a gift certificate to Borders or Barnes and Nobles with here's a suggested book around starting a new nonprofit or foundation. So just being very thoughtful. So it was like the small things. My friend came over and took all my parents' clothes to the laundromat. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And there were people that, and just the people that called and said, if you just want to cry, and I'll just sit here and listen to you cry. And so I think that people don't always know how to show up. And I've been that person for sure, where you don't know if you should call or not, or text or not. And so sometimes you choose not. And I would say choose to. And
say that again, because I think that's very important. And we're going to talk more about it. But say that again.
Yeah, I think people sometimes choose not to because they don't know what to say. So they just choose not to say anything at all. And I would say at least say something, at least show up in a way that lets the person know you're thinking about them, you care about them, you're empathizing with them, you're praying for them. And so I remember every single text message, call, person that signed in at the funeral. And I remember those who didn't, honestly. And I've been that person that didn't. So I'm not going to say I've shown up in the biggest way for my friends all the time. But I think I had a whole new appreciation for showing up after I went through what I went through. And it was obviously the most difficult time of my life. I felt like the whole bottom of me was just wiped from under me. And I really couldn't have managed that. And then I have friends that were just funny. My friend Crystal came to the funeral. She was hilarious. There was no reason I should have been laughing at a time like that, but I did. And I needed her humor at that time to just make me laugh. And she knew that that's what I needed from her because that was her gift. And that's what she really brought to me at the time. So everyone showed up in their own way, and I appreciated it so much.
And I think that's so important. And I think that just being there and being present and showing up and offering what you have to offer, whatever that is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
Sheetal?
Well, I feel like my example is perhaps trivial.
But it's
to-
not though.
No,
I think
it's
it's
not.
and you're here, so you're here. You're the anchor. So Sheetal and I started this conversation about showing up because it's something that really cemented our friendship.
Absolutely.
And you and I became much closer,
For sure.
through that whole experience. So it's
For
incredibly important. And the things that people go through, all of these things happen. So what you're about to talk about, I think, is incredibly important because it happens all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think my example of showing up has to do with obviously my professional life. And I was an in-house lawyer doing very well, a South Asian American in a very white man's world at a big Wall Street bank and doing very well, feeling like this is finally where I can see my career flourishing. And then really out of nowhere, they decided to close the office. And, my boss took everybody to a law firm, which I was the only attorney that didn't go. I just could not go back to law firm life. Yeah, I could not. No. And so for me, it was really re-envisioning my career, my sense of self. And the first month was amazing. I have to say it was Netflix and my daytime sweatpants and nighttime sweatpants. Really, I had like a difference. It was amazing. But I think it was in the winter time. It was like January. So right towards the end of January, for especially being single and being a professional my whole life, never not having worked, it really tests your boundary. It tests your sense of purpose. Just sitting in the house all day and really trying to apply for jobs. And that's where Dana really helped, just being there, just hearing her story. Obviously, she was a help so much more beyond that, but she had gone through something similar years before. And just hearing people's story in that time, because so many people offer very useless kind of surface level advice, like, oh yeah, if you need anything, call me, or oh boy, you didn't go to the firm, oh that's too bad, why didn't you do that? And Dana was one of the few people that said, good for you, I'm so glad you didn't go, you're gonna be fine, I've been there, here's my story. And just hearing people's story. And then I think for me in that moment, I had built such an amazing network and people that I really deemed close to me and that I thought would knock on doors. And it was slightly disappointing to see who's going to knock on doors for you. And I think Dana we weren't even as close then as we are now. And I remember she wouldn't just knock on doors, but she would pick up the phone and she would say, okay, you're going to lunch with me. We're having drinks with so-and-so. And it was humbling, really, to see somebody really help you in a situation where, for me, just having those doors meant a lot. It didn't even matter if it materialized into anything, but having somebody vouch for you means so much. And especially when so much of your life has been invested in your career and building up to that, having people vouch for you means so much. And I remember this distinct example. I went out to dinner with Dana, and she's rattling out 4 people. And it wasn't just, this is who I want you to meet. We're meeting them on Wednesday. We're going to drinks with them on Friday. I mean, she's setting it up. And I remember feeling so humbled that somebody's going to go through all this effort. Somebody who I didn't know particularly well at the time, but it really did solidify our friendship. And then there's a stark contrast with somebody who I considered very close, who I was applying for a job at her company. And I remember going to dinner with her and we just talked about her dating life the entire time, which was fine, but there was just no empathy and there was no, and I think for me in that moment, what I needed was empathy, was people saying, we've been here, you're going to be fine. Cause I think you get really stuck in your head in those moments. You start to doubt yourself, even for the most secure, confident people, you start to have these crazy fears that take over and they're toxic. And so to have people pull you out of those toxic thoughts is so important. And so I remember when Dana and I talked about the show, I think I was telling her that I don't think I could even articulate how much I valued her and how much I needed that in that moment.
Yeah. But the thing about it is this: number one, are you fine?
I'm fine.
You love your job. You're doing amazing. You're a rock star. Women need to support women more than we do.
Cheers. Absolutely.
And so we had a fabulous dinner before we came, and we talked about women supporting women in tangible and meaningful ways. So I just think for me, it wasn't about anything other than the fact that it's just the right thing to do. Like, that's just what we should be doing. When you see another person, another sister going through something, you jump in with all of the resources that you have. You treat people as you would want them to treat you if it was you going through that situation. And that's what showing up to me is all about.
And it's so much more than that, right? Like, I mean, in that example with you, you put your political capital on the line, right? You were willing to knock on doors and to say to people, this is my girl, you need to meet her. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people just play it safe and they're not willing to go there for their sisters. And I think that men are way better at doing that than women are for each other.
And I do feel like, I don't know if this resonates with any of you guys, I do feel like the times when I've been able to be the most supportive to people is like after I've totally failed other people. Like, I feel like I've had friends that have struggled with infertility, and I've had friends who have lost parents. And the first time you don't know how to handle it. Like, you don't know how to address it.
Absolutely.
You don't know what you should check in about. You don't know if you should just not talk about it.
Yeah,
so I feel like the ways that I've been able to be a really good friend to people is like right after I've really failed somebody else. And so, but it's been nice being able to go back and to speak with them about that, to say like, gosh, I just really wish I would have known then what I know now. And I would have been able to be there for you in a meaningful way.
And that's very authentic. You know, think about all of the experiences that you all have been through. How would you have wanted people to show up for you when you first discovered your life-changing event? So we've got job, parents, grieving, loss, spouse, disease, just life for me. You know, when you first impacted, and for me, and I'll talk while you guys are thinking of your answer. When I lost my dad suddenly in 2011, my daughter she was born in February. My dad died October 2nd. And for me, what I will always remember are my friends who showed up the day. So I found out at work, which was amazing when you work in a cubicle. And I did nothing but scream my head off, and I crawled under my desk because I could not believe that my dad was gone. And I had no privacy. So my privacy was literally under my desk. And my friend Allison pulled me out from under my desk, and I ended up going home. And when I got there, my friends Peter and Shauna, my dad died October 2nd. Their daughter Zoe was born October 6th. So they pulled me, like they were at my house, and they showed up with food, and they just immediately came in like taking care of my kids. My biggest worry when I came out of surgery last month, I'm always like yelling about my kids. Like, I need to call my children. Like, what's wrong with them? I just might want to check on my kids. And so what I loved about my situation is that my mother, my ex-husband, kudos to you for a minute, but just holding down my kids and bringing food for my family, like that was huge for me. And so that's how I wanted, because I'm the type of person that's like, I will deal with whatever I'm going through, but I need you to hold down everybody that I love. Like, that's my thing, is make sure that the people that I love are okay, because there's a lot of people who depend on me. And so when I am down, when I am sick, Michelle went home. She left me at the hospital to make sure my kids were okay. And that's what means a lot to me, because I'm like, I can take care of myself. Like, I'll be all right at the hospital, but make sure my baby girl, make sure my son, they're okay going off to school. And those are the things that I will never forget and what I appreciate. So how would you have wanted people, and in what ways did they show up for you when you first learned of your events?
Oh my God, I have so many good examples, but I'll just say that there's so many. I have so many amazing friends. But even when I had my twins, I mean, I had a group of friends that...
How old are they now?
They're 2. Well, they'll be 3 in April. And it was unexpected. And I have a 7-year-old and newly married and a new home and a new job and just new. Just new.
Yes.
And I'm old. relatively,
not.
relatively
not old.
speaking, but old to be having little babies. So anyway, my friends got together and they had this whole food thing. I think a lot of it is around doing things that are going to make it easier for you to just be present with your kids. And I think when the kids are involved, I mean, so take out the laundry, take out the food, both for your other kid, for your husband. So they had a rotation. They came over and they had a schedule, if you will. And my friend Sheila coordinated the whole thing. And so they were showing up. They took turns every day. Someone was showing up with a different meal and they were holding my baby so I could go take a shower and take a little nap. And that meant everything to me. And then they held my kids as if they were their own. And so I think showing up for me means you're in this, like it's your thing, like it's your issue. And I do want to say that showing up doesn't always have to be something negative. Just this weekend we showed up for a friend of mine who wrote a book about living past divorce. And so many of us were there to rally behind her in this new chapter for life as she's using this painful experience as a ministry. So I think you can show up in ways that are responsive to the negative things, but you also can show up when things are positive.
Absolutely.
To really say, hey, we got you. We're celebrating you. We're cheering you on. We're in your corner. So showing up to me means doing things in tangible ways. And I used to not be the best at physically showing up. And I call you, but I'm like, I got all these kids. I don't know if I can come. And so I'm a work in progress with that because I know what it feels like when people show up for me. And I think that's really the litmus test is when you have people show up for you, you're like, and it's sacrificial because we're all busy and we all, our values are really dictated by what we do and how we spend our time is really dictated by our values. And so I'm really working on being better at showing up. I think people have shown up for me better than I've shown up for people. I've tried to get better with time, but I think that
you're doing great. You showed up tonight.
Yeah, it's not easy. I was told Dana, I don't want to be a no-show for the show-up show. I'm not really feeling this tonight. Yeah.
And I appreciate all of you for showing up. You gotta show up for the show.
And I think a lot of it is people knowing what you need, even when you really don't think you know what you need or you can't articulate it. I think for me, I thought I was fine and everybody would look at me and like, you're fabulous. You're running every day. You're great. I'm like, no, I wear dresses inside my apartment and walk around like I'm going somewhere, but I have somewhere to go. And it's people being able to know. And I think Dana and my friend Tiff, great examples.
We love you, Tiff. This Tiff too, but
people,
Tiffs
people
are awesome,
saying,
Tiff.
And I remember for me in that time, I didn't want to go out a lot, and I love going out, and I love wine. But a lot of time in that moment, it was just exhausting to go out and people saying, oh, what do you do? And having to go through all of it, I just couldn't deal with it. Sometimes I'm like, I just rather watch Netflix. And I remember Dana and my friend Tiff and my sisters being like, no, you're coming out. I'll see you at 7 p.m. Dana would be like, I see you at 7:30. I'm like, I'm not coming. She's like, yes, you are. Because you're not. Because if you're leaving me here by myself at the bar, we're going to have some words. So
major guilt trips.
I will see you at 7:30. I'm like, oh my God. And you better look cute. Don't wear no sweatpants.
Can showing up go wrong?
Oh, totally. Yes, you can be like awkward, and in the end, I don't think it can go wrong. But I think in the moment, you can feel like I'm saying all the wrong things.
But you feel that way. Yeah. You feel that way. But there's like Tiffany said.
The other day, I was
I loved it. I loved it. But Tiffany said the same thing. Is like the worst thing you could do is not say anything.
Yeah. Say that again.
The worst thing you could do is not say anything. Like, I don't care how awkward you are, because I've been that awkward person. Like, I'm sorry, like you just say the stupidest things, but because you feel so bad and you want to say I'm here for you, but you don't know how to say it.
Right. And
I totally get that. Like, I totally get that. I've been in that spot. Now I'm like the person suffering, so I understand where you're coming from. Worst thing you can do is just not say anything at all. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I don't want you to say anything. Like at work recently, I'm like, let's just not talk about it because I'm going to start crying and I have to work and blah, blah, blah. And so people just kind of like reach out and squeeze my shoulder and just say, I'm thinking of you. That's all you have to say. Don't be like, how are you? And give me a sad little face, because I'm going to lose it. Like, don't do that, you know?
Yeah.
So
you talked about something earlier, which I thought was really good, about people being able to offer what they're good at
Yes.
and being specific and intentional
Mhm.
about what their goodies are, what they can offer.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
Can you talk about that?
so one thing that people do, which is not wrong, because like I said, nothing you do is wrong, but don't say, how can I help?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Because that adds
The worst.
another thing on my to-do list, and
Yeah.
I'm going to have a mental breakdown. So don't say, how can I help? Say, listen, I just want to let you know I make an awesome
Lasagna.
lasagna. I'd love to bring it to your house next Thursday. Can I do that with a bottle of wine? Put it on your doorstep. You don't even have to open the door. Or somebody that's like for me, it's because I'm a doctor. It's like my medical knowledge. I know somebody's going through a hard time. I'm like, I am here for whatever you need. You don't have to call me back, but I can help you if you have any questions about what's going on, or if the doctor doesn't make sense. That's what I'm here for. But you don't have to call me back. Just let you know I'm here for you.
And Alexis does that all the time.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm good at.
That's your gift.
Yes.
That's what you're good at.
So like, if you're good at that, or you're good at like, listen, I have kids the same age as you. Like, I will drive your kids. Don't even worry about returning the carpool, or, like that's what you should do, and say, this is what I'm good at. Use me for what I'm good at.
I love that.
You know?
So offering your skill set
Yes.
versus just saying,
Let me know what you need.
let me know what you need.
Right.
Worst thing you can say. I
Because
will
you're
say
putting
that.
a burden
Yeah.
on people
Right.
to think of something
Right.
when they're
And they're
already
never
in the
going to.
midst of
Right.
a.
And
Just
no
that
one's
they want
gonna
it out
say
there.
it. No one's
Yeah.
gonna
Right.
say
It's
Right.
very vague. It's very,
Right.
yeah. So
It's well intentioned.
It's
You know,
very
it is well-intentioned.
and I don't want anyone to feel bad
Yeah.
for ever saying that to me, because I said that to a lot of people too.
before
you know,
you knew
Yeah.
that you needed more,
Exactly.
something more tangible.
Yes. Yes.
No, I totally agree. My god brother was a doctor. He's a doctor,
Mhm.
and my mom was going through her stuff. I was so well prepared when the doctors came in, and I don't want to get emotional, but people are like, "Are you a nurse? Are you a doctor?" I had the right questions.
Mhm.
I was so, and I mean, the time that he took to make sure I was, he was reading, help me interpret the numbers and to be
Mhm.
better prepared to ask the right questions of the doctor. So that was his contribution. So I
Mhm.
couldn't agree more. Whether you're washing clothes, whether you're picking your
Right.
kids up, whether you're cooking a meal, whether you're
Mhm.
coordinating the meal planning and
Mhm.
drop-offs of all your
Mhm.
friends. So I could not
Mhm.
agree more. Just do something, and
Mhm.
I don't want to have to think about what you're going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I came home on
And
Monday.
I think,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Michelle.
no, sorry. I think that, a lot of what we're talking about are things that you can do physically, right? And be there for someone, drop off food, this and that, but I think now a lot of times our friends are so far away, right? Our jobs, life has carried people in your life to different places. And, how do you show up for those people? You can't, I'm fortunate. I work from home. That's part of what I am able to do. I got points. I jump on planes. I can work from anywhere, but you can't always do that. And I think sometimes it's about finding a creative way, to be a friend to somebody. It could be, you hear they're sick. Great. I can order Chinese food to their house. I don't have to be there for that. Or, there's a funeral. They're having a struggle trying to figure out where the repast is going to be. I don't physically need to be in town to coordinate that for them.
I can do the
So
GoFundMe.
I think it's also, there's amazing ways that you can really be creative, and help people out. Send a maid to the house, without actually physically being there too.
I also think, one mistake that people make is they do nothing because they're afraid of offending. And I'm into this whole notion of, excuse me, where people, they become distant. People project sometimes their discomfort. So have you often said, well, they won't want this, or they won't like that? And a lot of times what it really is it's their personal discomfort with whatever the situation is, versus really asking, is that really what they wouldn't like, or what they're not comfortable with? So in other words, what you may be comfortable or uncomfortable with may not be what somebody else is comfortable or uncomfortable with. Would you say that it's okay? Would you have been okay in your moment if people would ask? Just say, hey, do you want me to mow your lawn? Cut your grass? Is it okay for me to be doing your laundry, touching your undergarments, cooking your food in your pantry? Is it okay for people to ask?
Yeah, because
Because oftentimes people don't ask.
Well, and sometimes honestly, I mean, this has been more than 2 years now. It's like a roller coaster. And when it's really down, I don't want anybody around me. I want to just sit in my bed and cry, and if people are like, well, I'm coming over, I'm like, I can't. I'm sobbing in my bed by myself. I can't deal with you. So it's just like, you kind of have to be like, can I do this? And sometimes I do want you to come over, but sometimes I don't. But, and it depends on the person, because we're just, we're all different people.
Yeah.
So
different levels of maintenance.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think a good message is to check in.
Right.
And just ask.
It's a little bit more of an intrusive, if you're coming to the house.
Yeah.
If you're coming to the house.
But I think it's okay.
Company?
I think it's okay to, number one, ask. And also, don't take it personal when the answer is no.
Or not right now.
It's not about, or not right now. It's not about you.
Right.
It's more about them. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It should not change the friendship.
Right.
It should not change the love. I want us to be more okay with being able to ask in comfort and receiving a no and being okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think those break down a lot of barriers for people and create a lot more comfort.
Agree.
And I think that when you have friendships where you can navigate in those spaces, hey, is it okay, all right for me to come over? You know what? Today's just not a good day.
Yeah.
Feeling kind of crappy, need to be alone.
Right.
Cool. I'll call you in a couple days and just check in.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. It cements deeper bonds and furthers relationships, which I think really ultimately is a good thing.
But I think on the flip side of that too is somebody, I don't know if you guys have ever read this book about like love languages, right? For like relationships or kids.
Love language.
Of course.
My double love language, how I give love and receive love, is acts of service. And I feel like sometimes people will want to support you, but they won't know how. And for me, it's like being present, doing something for me. So I feel like if people who really care about you and have your best interest at heart, if they aren't showing up in the way that you need them to, like, you have to be able to communicate that to them and say, like, this is specifically what I need. Like, I feel like when I had my first child, my dad and my stepmom, who were like so amazing and wonderful and supportive, I was due like February 2nd, and they had a Florida rental home ready to go February 1st. So they're like, hey, January 28th, like, what's going on with the baby? Like, is anything happening? And I didn't have her until February 10th. But finally, like on the 3rd, I was like, listen, I just need you to be here. Like, I don't want you to fly there and then come back like 3 weeks later. Like, this is my first kid, and I want you to be here. And like, I could have resented them, but it's like having that strength to tell people like what you need.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's
unapologetically.
Right.
Speak up.
Right.
Speak up and say it, because if you don't say it, people don't know.
Right.
And you
Sometimes
give
they
them a
don't,
chance,
even with good intentions.
even with good intentions, and you give them an opportunity to be able to be responsive in that moment. And I think that's incredibly important.
It is.
I think it's incredibly important. So sometimes people just don't show up. Why do you think people don't show up?
They don't know what to say. It's uncomfortable for them.
I think sometimes it's just a lack of empathy, too.
I think sometimes people can just be selfish.
Yeah. I'm giving them the benefit of this.
Now we're turning to the other part of our program.
And I don't think it's necessarily
They're psychopaths.
negative. It's just there are a lot of people who cannot put themselves in other people's shoes, and if they haven't gone through something, they can't even try to fathom what you must be feeling or you must be
I don't want anyone to fathom what I'm going through, because it sucks.
I understand.
But I also feel like sometimes it's like a tug of war of values. Like I've seen it in my family before, where it's like, oh, there's something going on that's important to somebody else, but like my child has something going on, so I have to be there for that. Where I personally feel like, just with my mindset and what's important to me, like my love language or whatever, is like, you can demonstrate for your kids like how to be supportive and how to care for other people, and it's not a big deal. Like, I know for sure my 6-year-old isn't sleeping tonight, but it's like, I'm gonna go and like be present to my friends and like support them. So
and I appreciate you.
No, but you know what I mean.
Good night, 6-year-old.
Go to bed, Charlotte.
Charlotte. Yeah, I think it comes with
Torty. It comes with
Yeah.
life experiences. I think the more you need people to show up for you, the more you appreciate showing up for others.
Mhm.
And the more you understand what showing up looks like, the better you are at showing up.
Totally.
Mhm.
I totally feel like I've been a better show upper. I used to be that, oh, let me know what you need. I never say that now because I
Mhm.
really, not that resented that, but I felt that
Right.
that was the least useful
Mhm.
response in all that I've gone through. And so I try to say, hey, I can make you some spaghetti, or I can, take your kids for a day or for a night.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it's
a couple nights.
and I appreciate it. For me with my surgery, Alexis and Tiffany each took my kids. I split my kids up, and they each spent time with family friends, for the night. And I had 4 families for the whole weekend, which was great. And the beauty of it for me is that it was a win-win. My kids loved it because they just thought it was like amazing play dates. And these 2 are sending me pictures of like all this fun stuff the kids are doing. It's like Disney World, like Willy Wonka. They're having a blast. Meanwhile, I'm able to recover and spend some time, which I think is so important. I mean, I felt the village
Mhm.
when I was going through my surgery. And it was one of the first times. I had never had surgery before. I had my wisdom teeth pulled and I had kids. But other than that, I had never been like hospitalized or anything else. And so I didn't realize how much I needed.
Mhm.
The Bad Moms, shout out to the Bad Moms crew,
Yeah.
which is our group of friends, because I didn't even realize that I needed food.
Mhm.
I know that sounds crazy, but I didn't really plan for that. And our friends showed up with like a ton of food and wine, because that's just how we roll. But I was incredibly grateful that you all thought of that and provided that for my family, when I couldn't.
Mhm.
So I think it's just incredibly important.
Well, Dana, when I had surgery, was it like 4 years ago? I was in the intensive care unit, and Dana rolls in sweatpants.
I was
Balloons.
looking incredibly sexy.
Balloons, flowers. I had like this big like neck brace in the ICU.
And we spooned.
We spooned. It was awesome.
It's a whole nother
Yes,
show.
It was awesome.
Ebony and Ivory. It was great. But I just think it's important.
Yeah.
And I knew that Steve was at home with the kids.
Mhm.
And so that's the way that they had divided up, the situation. So it was important that while Steve was showing up in a very big way and keeping the kids, I wanted to make sure that you weren't lonely.
That I had balloons.
And
spooning.
Balloons
spooning.
and spooning.
But I just think it's so important. And I love the relationships and friendships where people show up.
Mhm.
I wrote an article about suffering being staggered. And what that meant was that when your friend is up, you may be down. And when you're down, your friend may be up. And it allows us to show up for each other, because if somebody's down, somebody's doing okay. So I'm okay I can give to you because I'm all right, in hopes that you will give to me, and you're okay.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think is so important when it comes to the circle of life and friendship and sisterhood and brotherhood. I just think that's incredibly important.
And I don't want to underscore the importance of emotionally showing up. I think that's probably where I'm the better. That's probably my strength is when my friends are going through something, I'm in it. Like I'm I'm in it. I'm like,
Tiffany's
if you got a court date the next day, and I know it's at 10 o'clock, I'm calling you at 10:01. Like, how did it go? Let's talk about it. Let's debrief. So I think, people that may not physically be able to be there, just being really invested in what's going on.
Caring. Asking about how it's going.
Being interested and thoughtful and curious and attentive. Oh, I love that. I love my friends that are like that. That's my love language.
She sent me flowers. Yeah. Well, her and 2 of my other high school friends that are awesome sent me flowers on Monday just because she sent me a text. How are you doing? I'm like, I'm just trying not to have a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
That's all I said.
Because it
I'm
was
like,
for people who don't know, it was a difficult time.
It's been
Steve.
bad in the last couple weeks.
And Alexis hosted last week's show.
Yes.
It was at her house.
And then my husband was in
the
ER
very next day. The very next day, we had an amazing home and food show. It was great. The kids were there. Delicious, delectable treats.
Yeah.
The very next morning, I was like, thanks so much.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. Love you. She's like, I'm on my way to the ER.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on my way to the ER. Yeah. And so just to be there, That's what the friendship is
Right.
all about.
Right. So she's like, okay, she's having a mental breakdown.
Well, no, it's like your guard was down like 1 millimeter. So we're like, oh shit, something's really wrong with Alexis.
I'm always
'cause
like,
she's not,
everything's
joking.
fine, everything's awesome. And then all of a sudden, like 2 hours later, flowers show up. I'm like, oh my God, my friends love me so much.
Yeah.
But it's important, and it's those types of things that keep you lifted up.
Yep.
It is.
It's those small things, those
Yeah.
small
Totally.
gestures
Totally.
that mean so
They
much.
do mean a lot.
And that's what I want people to do. Call your florist today and send somebody flowers just to let them know you're thinking about them, you feel them, you understand, because those are the types of things people don't do enough.
Mm-hmm.
You got your thumbs working on these text messages, right? But you're not showing up in other ways. I'm not saying everybody to send flowers, but just picking up the phone,
Handwritten
calling,
note,
a handwritten note,
Yeah.
just coming over, inviting out, making plans, showing up in tangible ways just makes such a difference. It changes the dynamic of relationships. If you're trying to get one, find one. Try this tactic, Casanovas. Send flowers. Do something in a very tangible way, because people just don't do it like
Even
they
if you
used
send
to.
flowers, send the kind of flowers you think they're gonna like. Because I used to get 2 dozen roses from my ex-fiance, and I felt bad complaining about it. But I'm like, I don't need 2 dozen roses. I actually like gladiolas. I like tulips. I know that sounds really selfish.
You like labiolas?
Oh, no,
But
But I need like maybe 3.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
So just being thoughtful, intentional, personal is really important.
Right.
It's really important.
So one of my favorite quotes that is actually my own.
Oh.
I know, right?
Bye, Dana.
Hello, Hallmark. But people often say to me, like, well, like your friends, that's just you, that's just your friends, that's just your crew, your circle. You have all these pretty girlfriends who are your friends. And I'm like,
Don't argue with
hell yeah. No, but what I say to that is, if you don't have it organically, build it strategically. If you don't have it organically, if this is not your world, your circle, build it strategically. Because when I moved, I live in Naperville. When I moved to Naperville, I didn't know anybody. I came out there for my job, and I didn't really know anybody. But what I did was I paid attention, to who my kids were friends with. Alexis and I, our sons, were best buddies. And it kind of grew from there. And so what does that mean to you about building your network strategically if you don't necessarily have it organically?
Well, I don't know if this is
that's how
answering.
I survived.
Say that, Michelle.
I said, that's how I survived. That's how you and I are friends, right?
Yeah.
Some of my best friends used to be my next door neighbors. And it was really about, or folks who had just moved to town as well. And it's sometimes it's not showing up for your best friend, it's showing up for an acquaintance. And that gives an opportunity to really grow a relationship. My godchildren are the result of that, right? Of me making friends with some neighbors and the guy I went to grad school with, and me becoming better friends with his wife. So so it doesn't always have to be about your best friends. And I do it strategically. I'm an only child. I'm single. Older parents, don't have close cousins, right? So when I'm old and gray, I got to make sure that someone's checking on me in the nursing home. So
I got you, boo.
Some selfish point.
I got you. We're going to have a suite together with a disco ball and strippers.
No, but seriously, invest in those relationships that, and people who fall off, but the ones that matter and that you invest in and people invest in you, they're so much more valuable.
Yeah.
And I agree with Michelle. Like, my moment was when my 3-year-old daughter, this is 3 years ago, fell off her training wheel bike and she broke her femur. So her her bone rather, in her thigh, and was in a chest down double leg cast when I had a super needy 4-year-old and my 1-year-old just started walking. So this was like an illustration for all my neighbors, like, oh my God, like, she needs help. So these people that I hardly even knew would bring by a craft or invite my daughter for a play date. And it was so profound, like little things that weren't necessarily from my core group of people that I require support from people that it was just, It was amazing. And it's
I don't think I did anything at that time, and I feel really bad about
No.
that now.
Did you raise $100,000 for her
I
daughter?
know.
And then the
Alexis.
next year, she raised $100,000
No,
for me. And
you answered
I
a
did
lot of
nothing.
questions.
I suck. I suck.
I know.
Erin's
no,
getting flowers tomorrow.
I know,
Yes.
seriously. No, she was
Right.
amazing.
Hallelujah.
But I do feel like it's the sort of thing that it's like Christmas. Like it feels good to do these small
Yeah.
things for people. Like my neighbor just had her third, and I'm like, of course she needs me to walk. I'm going to volunteer to walk her kid to school and bring her meals. And I think it like speaks to who your character. Like it's just a
Right.
good way to represent yourself too
Mhm.
for people that you don't know as well. And,
Yeah.
and it feels good. So
Yeah.
no.
It does. Yeah.
No, it's funny because I'm first generation, and my parents both grew up in India, and in India, they all lived so close together, and it really was a village. I mean, literally was a village, and the village's kids were everybody's kids, and I think that breeds a certain amount of selflessness and amount of thinking beyond yourself and thinking community. And I think in the West, we're very autonomous, which is wonderful, but I think we do lose that sense of community
Yeah.
that I think in the East is so profound.
Mhm.
So it's really great to see. We do really have our own villages.
Mhm.
And I think that's so important. I think it's a great point because you can create your own village around you and create the village that you want. Part of it is by leading by example. And part of it is really surrounding yourself with people who truly support you, who sustain you, who are there for you, who show up for you. And so I appreciate all of you for showing up for me. I think this has been a great show, just a great example of showing up and being here for others. I think that's very important. For those of you who live in Naperville, I hope that you do show up and early vote. We've got a lot of contested races. Our mayor election is contested, so vote for Steve Cherico. He is my mayor. He is a good friend of mine, and I do hope that you show up and just early vote regardless. I think that's very important. On April 11th, we're having a special event, a special announcement for Dana being Dana at Potter's, downtown Naperville at 7:30. We've got a lot of exciting news to share, so I hope you guys all come out for that. I want to thank our sponsors, Sandra Hernandez with Makeup, 630-750-0198. Veronica's House of Glamour, 630-995-2320. Janelle at Premier Designs Jewelry, premierdesigns.com/Janelle G4. Jill Whitwer, Personal Stylist, 630-400-8827. The Social MVP, socialmvp.com. Scene Chicago, scenechicago.com. And Ray Design Company, 773-354-0740. These people have been working with me on Dana Being Dana and all the stuff that we're doing for a long time. And I am so grateful and thankful for our longtime recurring sponsors of the show. We're doing a whole lot, and I just appreciate all the work that they're doing behind the scenes. Next week on Dana Being Dana, we are going on the road, y'all. We're going on a global world tour, and our first stop is in Minneapolis.
Woo! Prince.
Yes. Oh, that is where Prince is from. And we'll be talking to two comedians about life, love, and laughter. My show, as you know, is about the human connection. And I think one of the things that connects us so much is laughter. Being able to laugh through all of life's adversities, happiness, sad times, just being able to laugh. And so we'll be talking to two comedians in Minneapolis next week about what that means. I think laughter truly is the best medicine, and we have a very fun show planned. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more details. We'll be at a special time, and we'll share more about that later. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
I am so excited for you all being here. I do not promise to be an expert, nor do I have all of the answers. I am just Dana being Dana. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I don't know if Facebook's working, but we definitely have the YouTube version, and we're on IntellectualRadio.com. Please check us out. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Good night.
Good night.